A tangled love story unfolds as I confront jealousy, betrayal, and ultimately my own self-worth. Will I find closure or regret in this emotional journey? The uneasy beginning. I never thought I'd find myself in such a tangled web of emotions, but here I am, sitting down to share my story. My boyfriend and I, let's call him Harry, had been dating for almost a year. It was a time filled with laughter, late-night talks, and those sweet moments that made me think he was the one. Yet, lurking beneath the surface was this nagging feeling that something wasn't right. It all started with Rachel. Before Harry and I got together, he had this close friend, Rachel. They had known each other since they were teenagers, and I often heard Harry reminisce about their friendship. I never thought much of it until I learned about the crush he once had on her. As fate would have it, after a few years apart, they reconnected in college where their bond grew strong. I remember when we first started dating, Harry was always so sweet, but there was something about the way he talked about Rachel that made my heart flutter with unease. In February 2019, he confessed his feelings to Rachel, but she wasn't ready for a relationship. A month later, Harry and I began talking, and I thought I had finally caught his heart. But then, everything changed. Fast forward to September, when Harry suddenly had to sit next to Rachel on the bus every day because something terrible happened to her. A guy had sexually assaulted her, and she needed support during her recovery. I felt a rush of emotions, sympathy for her, but also jealousy. I found myself feeling insecure about their friendship. So I did what I thought was best. I told Harry he could no longer sit with her. I'll never forget the look on Rachel's face that day on the bus. She shed a few tears, and my heart ached for her, but I felt it was necessary for our relationship. Boundaries needed to be set, right? In the months that followed, I caught him messaging her about her life in therapy. It haunted me. Had I done the right thing? Was I the villain in this story? I couldn't shake the feeling that I had taken him away from someone who needed him. As I mulled over this dilemma, I wondered if I should apologize to Rachel for what had happened. But how could I do that? I had to confront my feelings of guilt and insecurity before I could even think about reaching out to her. Part 2. The Crossroads of Doubt. After my initial post seeking advice, I felt a wave of emotions wash over me. I remember feeling relieved when others resonated with my struggle, but I was also flooded with doubts. I realized I wasn't just grappling with jealousy, I was wrestling with my self-worth. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had taken Harry away from Rachel in her time of need. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that this wasn't just about Rachel and Harry, it was about me too. I was scared of losing him, but also scared of becoming the person who dictated his friendships. Then I made the decision to talk to Harry about everything. I needed clarity, and I needed to understand where he stood. When I finally confronted him, it was an emotional roller coaster. He admitted that at the beginning of our relationship, he still had unresolved feelings for Rachel. My heart sank. He missed her and had been in contact with her, even after I had set those boundaries. When he told me that Rachel thought they were just friends, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt betrayed, like I had been living a lie. I was devastated by the realization that I was just a placeholder in Harry's heart. The worst part was knowing that they had been intimate just a month before we got together. I felt like I was carrying the weight of their past on my shoulders, and I was ready to explode. That night, I began packing up all the gifts he had given me. It felt like the only way to reclaim my dignity. I couldn't believe that I was about to end things with someone I thought was perfect for me. But deep down, I deserved better. My heart was racing as I prepared to confront him. Would he fight for me or let me walk away? But there was one thing I still needed to do. I wanted to reach out to Rachel. Maybe she could help me understand what was really going on. I needed answers, and I hoped she could provide them. Part 3. The Heartfelt Confrontation. The day came when I finally faced Harry. We met at a serene garden in his residential area. It was quiet, and I could hear the rustling leaves as I gathered my thoughts. I took a deep breath and told him everything that had been weighing on my heart. I expressed how much I cared for him and how I had always believed our relationship was special. But I also made it clear that I wouldn't settle for being second best. As he listened intently, I could see the regret in his eyes. He apologized for his dishonesty, admitted that he had been unfair to me. I was still angry, but there was a part of me that felt sad for him too. He had been caught in a complicated situation, and while I didn't excuse his actions, I understood that he was struggling with his feelings. When I mentioned Rachel, his expression shifted. He told me he wanted to help her and that he never intended to hurt me. I realized then that he was genuinely conflicted. But I couldn't be with someone who didn't have clarity in their heart. I needed to prioritize my own well-being, so I told him it was over. It was a painful moment, but somehow it felt freeing. After our conversation, I returned the gifts he had given me. I even suggested selling some of the expensive items and donating the money to a women's shelter. He agreed, and it felt like a small victory. Now that I had made my decision, it was time to reach out to Rachel. I knew I had to clear the air and perhaps even apologize for the way things had unfolded. But would she be open to talking to me? Part 4. Healing and Moving Forward. Reaching out to Rachel was one of the scariest things I had done, but I knew it was necessary. I texted her, and to my surprise, she responded quickly. We agreed to have a phone call, and I felt a mixture of nerves and anticipation. When we finally spoke, I was amazed by her kindness. She understood my position and reassured me that I didn't need to apologize. Rachel shared her journey of healing, and I was struck by her strength. We discussed the complexities of relationships and how they can sometimes lead to misunderstandings. She confided in me about how Harry had been a source of support during her difficult times, but she also expressed her frustration with him for not being clear about our relationship. It was cathartic to share our experiences, and I felt a bond forming with Rachel, even if it was unusual circumstances. We agreed that we wished things could have been different, but for now, we needed to focus on our own healing. After our conversation, she sent over a pizza and ice cream as a sweet gesture, and I couldn't help but smile. As the holidays approached, I reflected on everything that had happened. I learned valuable lessons about self-worth, boundaries, and the importance of clear communication in relationships. I felt grateful for the support I received from my family and even from strangers online. It was a journey of growth, and while it wasn't easy, I emerged stronger. In the end, I understood that I deserved to be someone's priority, not a consolation prize. I stepped into a new chapter of my life, ready to embrace whatever came next. I hoped to find love again, a love that wouldn't come with unresolved feelings or complicated histories. And so, I wish you all a happy holiday season, and remember, it's never too late to prioritize your own happiness.